Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, Jill Jardine, Master's in Counseling Psychology, professional astrologer, psychic, Sanskrit Mantra instructor, and yogi. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Sanskrit Mantras, a sacred formula to improve your life, part of the yoga of sound. So you'll want to stay tuned and experience this. Welcome to Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. I'm your host, professional astrologer, psychic, therapist, healer, hypnotherapist, yogi, and Sanskrit mantra instructor. And in today's episode, I am going to talk about Sanskrit mantras and introduce you to several powerful ones to affect a shift in your life. Now, Sanskrit mantras are part of the yoga of sound, and this is a form and branch of the Vedas, and the mantras do come from the sacred books of the Vedas, of Vedic teachings, including the Puranas and the Vedic teachings, as well as the tantric teachings that are found in the ancient Indian traditions of the Vedas. And so a lot of people know about yoga, the physical part of yoga, but this is the yoga of sound, meaning that by chanting Sanskrit mantras, you can affect a big change in your life, just like you can when you do the physical postures of yoga. Now, I was initiated through my teacher, Namadeva Archarya, known as Thomas Ashley-Farrand. He has written some wonderful books on Sanskrit mantras. He left his body in 2010, but he left an amazing legacy of Sanskrit mantras for the Western student. And his teacher was Satguru Sankeshavadas, who was a very prolific guru, teacher of mantras. He's written over 5,000 books about different Vedic practices. He also had written many bhajans, which are chanting in Sanskrit. He was survived by his widow, Guru Rama Mata, who is still giving darshan and teaching mantras to this day. She's in her 80s. I am a student of hers, and I have brought her and her son, Sri Muralidhar Pai, through to the area for workshops, and their daughter, Gita Bhatt. And there is another son of Satguru Sankeshavadas, Shampai, who does workshops and teaches mantras in the Washington, D.C. area. So I have learned mantras from Thomas Ashley-Farrand, Namadeva Archarya, Guru Rama Mata, Sri Muralidhar Pai, and also two of my Vedic astrology gurus and teachers, Gary Gomez, who was a guest on this show, and Camilla Sutton. So my experience with mantras is coming from some very powerful teachers and initiated in a very, very intense lineage that comes out of India. So as you get this information today, you are going to get the transmissions that have come through the lineages of the Sanskrit mantra. And that basically means that these mantras I'm going to share are empowered. You can also learn them off of YouTube. They're all over YouTube now, and I think that other people are teaching them. But it's really important to know what the lineage is that they're coming through and that they are vetted, so to speak, from a lineage. Otherwise, you can run into some mantras that are dangerous. And these are called Vashkarana mantras, and they can be almost like black magic. So you have to stay away from that. But what you're going to learn today through my lineage is very much filled with light and have been transmitted from gurus through the ages to current day. So the question becomes, what is a mantra? The word mantra has been taken up in colloquial speech as a phrase like, do it, Nike. And that is not what a mantra is. That's a saying, because mantras are not in English. They are in the ancient language of Sanskrit, which is a vibrational language. The difference between a mantra is that it does affect your energetic body. And if you go back and listen to my podcast that my colleague Sarah Adams and I did on chakras, you'll get some information about the subtle and spiritual physiology through the chakra system, but also go back and listen to my podcast on Kundalini, baby. and Kundalini Yoga, 2 different podcasts there about Kundalini and the subtle body and energizing ourselves through mantra and other practices. Mantra is the Sanskrit word which is translated to mean manas is the root, which means mind, and that's where the M-A-N in mantra comes from. And then the second syllable, the tra, mantra, comes from the Sanskrit word tre, meaning to protect or to be free from. Therefore, the word mantra in its most literal sense means to free from the mind or to free the mind. In other words, when you chant mantras, you're going to free your mind from your regular thought forms and from what we call the cassette tape that you play over and over again, or the computer program in your mind, which includes subconscious programs that have been repeating in people's heads for a long time. So mantra is an excellent way, Sanskrit mantra is an excellent way to clear the subconscious gunk, if you will. So continuing our discussion on Sanskrit mantra and what they can do for you, I just also want to remind people that in the past, spiritual techniques and spiritual tools were passed on from teacher to student or from guru to disciple. In this current day and age of the internet, there's so much fast food spirituality or fast food learning techniques or spiritual traditions or spiritual shamanic healing techniques, which is all very well and good. We are in the time of information and sharing, but there is something about studying with a teacher, and as old school as we may be, that is still the best way to receive true spiritual knowledge, is to study with a guru, one who has walked the path before, and you benefit from all their experiences as opposed to just getting information off the internet. But that being said, what I'm going to share with you today about mantras, a lot of this material does come from my teacher, Namadeva Archarya, Thomas Ashley-Farrand, and of course, I'm giving him credit for that. We should always attribute any teachings we get from a guru or teacher back to the teacher, or then you get ego involvement if you take it on as your own. So I am sharing this information sitting on the shoulders of my teachers and the teachers that have come before them. So, speaking of mantras, they are energy-based sounds. What does that mean? It means that we have an intention as we chant a mantra. It's an actual physical vibration that is being produced. And so we have an intention and we couple it with the physical vibration, and then the vibration adds the mental component, which influences the result of saying the mantra. And so we tend to say mantras for specific purposes, whether they can be to remove obstacles or to bring in more prosperity. Who doesn't want more prosperity? Certainly at this time and in this day and age, health, chanting mantras to increase and improve our health is very important, as well as for protection and also for spiritual enlightenment, which is a term called moksha in Sanskrit. So mantras can serve all these purposes as energy-based sounds. So the other thing about mantras is they do create an energy wave. And I've witnessed this myself when sitting in the presence of my gurus. There's a palpable energetic field. And let me tell you, it feels so good. And you are going to experience this as I chant a little later in the podcast. So it actually has an effect on the physical body as well as the subtle body. Sanskrit mantras are tools of power and tools for power. That being said, there's also protection around them that they won't be used or misused for abuse of power. And so the other thing we need to know about mantras are that this is very subtle, but some can be very immediate because it is energetic. So mantras have only an approximate 1-to-1 direct language-based translation. For instance, if you tell a child that a stove is hot, they won't understand that unless they go and touch the stove and actually get burnt. So the translation of hot to someone who hasn't experienced it can be a little bit elusive or vague. So the same thing with mantras. And the other thing I want to say about the mantras is that people's experience of a certain mantra may be different. So, for instance, I'm going to teach Ganesha mantras for removing obstacles today, but my experience of chanting certain mantras may be different than my producer Tom's experience of chanting the same mantra because it is the interpretation of the chanter. Okay, the other thing I want to say about that is that over thousands of years, of chanting mantras. They come from the ancient rishis in India and get passed through time. That over thousands of years, many sayers have had common experiences with certain mantras and pass them on to the next generation. That's why we can give a definition for a certain mantra. This will help remove obstacles, or this is a mantra to bring in prosperity. So, definitions of mantras are oriented toward either the results of repeating the mantra or of the intentions of the original framers and testers of the mantras. And again, these are the ancient rishis who would go into their transcendent state on a mountain, let's say in the Himalayas, and start receiving from the higher sources a certain mantra. And then they would get the interpretation, oh, this is to bring in more food to eat, to bring in prosperity, to bring in abundance. And even abundance for each individual can mean something different. For some, it means that health is their wealth, having enough food to eat is wealth, having peace of mind in their life is wealth, and having a certain amount of money in their bank is wealth. So again, things can be very relative to the person chanting the mantra. Now, the mantras have also been tested and are verified by their original framers or users. Each mantra is associated with an actual sage or historical person who once lived. And so this does pass through oral tradition. And then they were written on palm leaves in India. And these transmissions did designate the specific sage or the seer of the mantra. And again, as I mentioned, the mantra came to the original seer through some form of meditation or intuition as far as what it meant and how to use it. And then there's Sanskrit mantras. They are related to petals on the chakras or the subtle body. Again, go back and refer to my chakra podcast, and it is a whole nother level of chakras that I will address in an upcoming podcast. But basically, it starts spinning these chakra petals of your subtle body, and you start moving energy. In my experience over the years of chanting mantras, I've been chanting them for over 20 years, but very strongly in the last 15 years when I would do workshops and do teachings with Namadeva Archarya and Guru Rama and Sri Muralidhar Pai. Lots of energy movement. The other thing I have to say about mantras, they're so good at releasing blockages and stuck energy. And as I said, old thought forms that no longer serve. And it's a great way to dig out subconscious shadow influences in your life, in your body, in your psyche, as well as cleaning up karma and ancestral patterns. So it really is a powerful tool. That's why I am excited to share these today. So mantras are energy. They're like fire. And think about fire. It can warm up your water to make a cup of tea, or it can cook your food, or it can burn down the house. So you need to be doing them with a teacher or with some guidance. A lot of people don't know what they're doing if they just go on and grab a mantra from the internet. As I said, you don't even know if it's one of those black magic type of mantras. So that's where you have to be very careful and discriminating and use discernment when you chant. And as I said, everything you're learning today has been vetted and comes through a very powerful healing tradition. That being said, it's really good to practice them with a qualified teacher. The other thing that mantras do for us is that they energize prana. Prana. Prana is a Sanskrit term for a form of life energy that can be transferred from individual to individual. Classically, it means that it is coming from the breath, but it has more to do than just the breath. It's the life force. When you go to a healer, such as a Reiki healer or an energy healer who may be in Colorado and you're in Boston and you receive that transmission, that's coming to you through prana. Healers transfer prana. A massage therapist can transfer prana with a very beneficial effect. So we can do self-healing if we concentrate our hands in a certain area of our body and transfer prana to that area for healing. So mantras will energize prana and allow you to transmit it, even more powerful than without. And then the last thing I want to say before we go into the practices is that mantras will quiet the mind. They will go in and dig out the crystallized subconscious thoughts that get stored in the organs and glands and transform these bodily parts into clarity and into wholeness. The other thing that we like to do when we chant a mantra is to have the intention. It's called sankalpa in Sanskrit. And also they're to be used to do no harm to others. They are a very powerful modality for healing others. But one thing you need to say when you're using mantra to heal others is you want to preface it with, I don't take on that individual's karma. But if we can't use them in a negative way, or that will backfire and you're creating karma. So you want to have a clear intention of health, healing, and positivity when you chant mantras. Hey listeners, just wanted to remind you that Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine is also a radio show broadcasting live on WATD 95.9 to Boston South Shore and streaming live around the world on the internet through 959watd.com. Monday nights at 8 p.m. East Coast time. The beauty of the radio show is that you can call in and get a mini reading from me or one of my psychic guests to the studio 781-837-4900. So tune in on Monday nights at 8. Okay, so we're going to start our mantra practice. Today's focus will be with the Ganesha mantras for removing obstacles, but I want to talk a little bit about the practice. In general, we like to take a mantra and chant it 108 times. That's the optimal practice. Once a day, 108 times. If you're feeling motivated, do it more. Do several rounds of 108. Now, 108 is a spiritual number. And people wonder where it comes from. Well, it's actually astrologically based. It is the 12 signs of the zodiac from Aries through Pisces, the 12 signs, sun signs, times the 9 original Vedic planets, which are the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Rahu, the north node, and Ketu, the south node in the Vedic astrology. So 9 times 12 equals 108, and it's a very spiritual number. And if you add it up in numerology, 1 plus 0 plus 8 equals 9. So let's say you don't have much time and you want to do some mantra, as my teacher used to say, some mantra is better than no mantra, then chant in multiples of 9. And what we're going to do today for teaching practices is chant each mantra I share 9 times. So the other way of doing it is to chant 54, which is the rosary. A mala is the Indian rosary, which actually the Christian monks, when they came to India, saw that, the rosary, and decided to half it and make it 54. And thus we had the Christian rosary come out of the malas of the Hindu mystics and priests. So there are several ways you can find malas on the internet. I want to recommend my friend's website, Shakti, SHAKTI malas.com. She makes beautiful malas, and you can get them in gemstones or crystals. And if you know your astrology, that's even better because you want to get a gem that's good for you astrologically. And there are some called Navaratna beads, which are these same 9 planets of the Vedic tradition, the gems for each one. Okay, so you can get the gem or crystals. You can get them made out of sandalwood, which comes from India, Tulsi, a Tulsi mala, Rudraksha. Tulsi tends to be sacred to Rama, healing, Krishna. Rudraksha is Shiva, Durga. And then, as I said, you can get something specific to your personal astrology. So we're going to start with simple mantras for removing obstacles. And in the Sanskrit tradition, the deity or the energy of removing obstacles is Ganesha. Now, a lot of my students and clients are like, I don't want to become Hindu. I'm a Christian. I don't want to do this heathen practice. Well, it's not a heathen practice. Actually, the chanting of mantras precursed the actual Hindu religion. So you're chanting to these anthropomorphic influences that we all deal with. So we all want to deal with removing obstacles in our life and work with that Ganesha principle for that purpose. And so the first mantra that we do, and it's always good to do Ganesha mantras when you're starting something new, and sometimes this may be the first time that some of you are chanting. And it's going to be a new season, the season of the fall. So we can initiate that with chanting mantras. And I believe this may be released around the time of a new moon. So it's always good to chant then. So the mantra I'm going to teach you, Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha, translates to Om and salutation to the remover of obstacles. And this Ganapati mantra is used for removing obstacles, starting a new endeavor, new job or career, before entering into a contract or business, or before you do anything new. A lot of kids are going back to school. This is a great one to start the school year off with. And you can chant on the behalf of your children, but it basically bestows any new endeavor with success. And the mantra is Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Join me as I chant it 9 times. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 The next mantra I'm going to share is another one to remove obstacles. It is Om Vigna Nashanaya Namaha, and it invokes the removal of obstacles to remove every impediment in your life and in your works. By constantly knowing this mantra, all obstacles and blocked energy in you is released. And the mantra is Om Vigna Nashanaya Namaha. Here we go. Om Vigna Nashanaya Namaha. 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 The next mantra is also a Ganesha mantra or a Ganapati mantra for removing obstacles. And sometimes we need to clear space. We may come into a hotel room, or we may want to buy a new house or property, but it feels like it's haunted, or that we might be around people who have entities, or they may seem to be really dark. And so we can clear space and we can clear people with this following Ganesha mantra, Om Shakti Ganapataye Namaha. And this helps to cast away evil spirits from a haunted house or from the body or mind of a person. And the mantra again is Om, O-M, which you've noticed each one so far has started with that. Then the word Shakti, S-H-A-K-T, which means life force. Ganapata, which is the deity or principle. Yay, Shakti, producer, meaning that life force. And then Namaha is the salutations. And you have noticed that that is a format that these mantras I'm teaching today follow. Om Gam, the seed for Ganesha, Ganapataye Namaha, the first one I taught you. Om Vigna Nashanaya Namaha, another name for Ganesha. And now Om Shakti Ganapataye Namaha, to cast away negative energy. Here we go, 9 times. Om Shakti Ganapataye Namaha. 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 So the last mantra I'm going to share with you today in our series of mantras for removing obstacles is one of my client's favorite because it does remove obstacles to abundance and prosperity. And it combines the Ganesha, removing of obstacle principles, with the goddess of abundance in the Vedic teachings, Lakshmi. And so that mantra is Om Lakshmi Ganapataye Namaha, which translates to Om and salutations to the remover of obstacles, for which Ganesha is the seed. The Ganapati mantra is used for removing obstacles to abundance or well-being. For instance, like if you want to find a new job or a new home. Ganesha as the remover of obstacles through the power of unity. He is a great unifying principle operating at every level, from the subatomic to the extra-systemic. So this is invoking the divine principles to remove obstacles to abundance. Om Lakshmi Ganapataye Namaha. Chant with me 9 times. But do chant 108 on your own, all these mantras, and see what happens. Or pick one of your favorite and do that for 108 times a day. So let's chant Om Lakshmi Ganapataye Namaha now 9 times. Om Lakshmi Ganapataye Namaha. 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 Hey listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode on Sanskrit Mantras. Please remember to download this episode and all the episodes of Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine. Share them with your friends and colleagues. And please give us a 5-star review. This is Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, signing off and sending you Sanskrit Mantra healing vibrations through the quantum field.